I think we moved on too quick from Hugh Freeze's comments about Xavier Chaplin.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. Can the offense make the changes it needs against Georgia? That's coming up, as well as the Baylor home and home discussion. Darrell, I think, is going to sound off on that. We'll see. But I want to go back to the Xavier Chaplin comment that Hugh Freeze made at his presser, because it's like he made a few interesting comments at the presser, and then the Baylor news happened, and then we just moved on to the Baylor news, which is fine. But he was asked, I think it was the last question he was asked, Darrell, about Xavier Chaplin and any questions on, like, would he be the guy at left tackle, because he's kind of underachieved the last few weeks. And he went into, we had this, we tested his hearing. And I remember thinking that, like, I went live immediately after, and maybe I should have waited a few minutes to kind of like gather my thoughts on that for a little bit. But at the time, I thought that was strange. And the more I think about it, the more I dislike that answer in its entirety for several reasons.
All right. So I'm going to go big picture on this.
Please.
I'm concerned that it's a symptom of a larger problem, but I'm also going to let people not overreact, because I'm going to give an example of where it happened to another coach in this state, and it had to do with vision. So let me just say this, that you and I have talked before about communication, not being in the room, and coaches and underlings and people that work for you communicating things to you that you need to know if you're not in every meeting. And to me, it's the head coach's job to know certain things about your football team.
Yes.
Dr. Goodlett at Auburn apparently gives vision and hearing tests to every student athlete when they come on campus at Auburn. Question number one, how did you miss it if you're giving a hearing and vision test to every student athlete that's coming on campus? So either he missed it, or we're not being told the truth, and Chaplin's hearing was, described as less than normal by the doctor, or it's not, and we're just making excuses for a player so that they don't throw him under the bus, and so everyone doesn't pile on. It's got to be one of the three, period. There's not an in-between. Either it didn't happen, or it happened and they identified he had a hearing problem, or they identified he didn't, and we're making up a narrative to make people lay off the kid and make the kid feel better. Okay? There's a concern there any way you slice it. Any of those issues is a concern. Because as the head football coach, you better know that your left tackle that you paid a lot of money in the portal has a hearing problem, or you're being told that he doesn't have a hearing problem and he does.
May I push back for the sake of conversation? I agree with you.
Yeah.
But the way he did phrase the response was in those types of environments and situations. And so if he was evaluated by Dr. Goodlett, as you mentioned, coming in, is he being evaluated hearing wise in that type of situation? I don't know. The other thing, though, is like you've got to practice with the volume cranked up anyway, which is why I still agree with you nonetheless, but I am asking the question of, like, maybe the hearing test could be flawed in that scenario.
So I get to push back on the pushback.
Sure.
He specifically said we've uncovered a problem, right? How did he word that? They've realized there's an issue. How do you realize there's an issue? What do you do to determine there's an issue? Did they test him? Did they blare music in his ear and go, okay, because your point is he could pass a normal hearing test, but in an environment where the decibels are through the roof.
Sure.
Roof. I sounded like one of the chipmunks at Christmas. Through the roof. that now there's a problem. Okay, well, how did they determine that? What did they do to determine there is an issue? His exact words were, we've uncovered an issue, right?
So here's the quote.
Yeah, here's the quote.
We've done some testing on his hearing, and there's an issue there. That goes back to us. We should have handled the cadence stuff differently for him, but he really struggles to hear in those environments, and we'll make adjustments for that. When he's on time off the ball, he's pretty dang good. Nobody hurts more than him. He was really distraught. I wish we could have put him in a better position.
Okay, so they said we've done some testing. That's the key. Different testing than Dr. Goodlett did? Normal testing to see if you can hear okay if someone's talking to you? Or are they blaring music in his ear and he can't hear, like they're trying to simulate an environment on the road? You see my point? There's some. Yeah. So I'd like to know what the testing consisted of. And again, like you said, at practice, they're supposedly playing loud music and all that kind of stuff to simulate snap counts or hostile environments. What kind of testing was done that determined he's got an issue? And why was this testing any different than just a normal test than you get when you become a student athlete? Important to know. And I will.
Can I tell you? So we're in agreement there on the macro, right? There's details that are slipping through the cracks consistently. It doesn't matter what part of the roster it is or what part of the game it is. There's still details slipping through the cracks, right? That has been a thing since he's became the head coach at Auburn. The aspect of, like, I defended him when the narrative last year was he keeps throwing people under the bus. Like, I'm like, well, you're asking a question. I don't know if this needed to be discussed publicly. Like, I don't know the benefit of saying, hey, yeah, Xavier Chaplin may have hearing problems.
I agree. You just internally handle it, and all of a sudden the guy looks better, right?
Yeah,
he just comes out as improved.
Yes,
he's improved.
Yeah,
he's
communication, cadence. That's definitely something we looked at. You don't have to like.
You don't.
Yeah, that one. I hate that for Chaplin more than anything else.
Let me put this in perspective, though, before everyone starts losing their bleeping minds and saying this is just a few years ago. And I don't remember the kid's name, nor do I need to mention the kid's name because of HIPAA, maybe. There was a player at Alabama that couldn't catch a cold, dropped pass after pass after pass. And Saban publicly said, and I don't remember how long ago this was, they got his vision tested. And I don't know if it was contacts, glasses, what. And the kid's pass catching ability dramatically improved because he had a vision problem. Similar scenarios, right? I mean, I'm sure he got his vision tested when he came on campus at Alabama, but he had the dropsies. They tested his vision. He couldn't see. His vision improved. His pass catching ability improved. There's a precedence for this happening before, is what I'm saying, before people start losing their ever-loving minds over it. It happened in Major League Baseball this year, okay? Same thing. Major League Baseball, Tommy Pham plays for the Pirates, hit 198 the first 2 months of the season. They got his vision checked. He got contact lenses. He went on a tear. It happens. But I'm just saying what happened in between the normal testing and why Hugh Freeze said what he said. And I agree with you. It needed to be an unspoken, maybe.
Yeah. All right. As far as the news that distracted us from all this, there's actually, we'll get to the Baylor stuff. There's also another comment he said at the presser that left me scratching my head, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but I want your thoughts on it. Okay. All that's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. With all-wheel drive, standard, and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, retirement accounts from previous employers. When you don't have the full picture on your money, you can end up leaving money on the table. And we don't want that. That's why Monarch Money exists. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's a 50% off deal on your first year at monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Darrell Dapprich hanging out with me on this Wednesday edition of Locked on Auburn. Before we jump into the Baylor thing, he answered a question about Horatio Fields' timeline to return. And he said 6 to 8 weeks. And he's like, but I'm not really sure what that means. If it's 6 to 8 weeks until he can play, 6 to 8 weeks until he can start practicing and running on it again. And that was another thing. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. And please tell me if you think I am. But you think Dan Lanning or Kirby Smart or Marcus Freeman, I'm thinking of the top coaches throughout college football right now, and their top 3 receivers statistically before he went down, I just feel like they would know exactly how long the timetable was until he returned. Am I reaching on this?
No, and I feel like I hate to sound like I'm piling on, but it is your job as a head coach to differentiate. I mean, who cares? If someone asks you for a timeline, they're wanting to know when he's going to play again, not when he's going to be able to get his crutches off.
Right.
No one cares. Oh, he can eat solid foods again in 3. Nobody. The question is geared towards when will he be back on the field in an Auburn uniform, and that is the only way you answer that question. And by God, again, from a communication standpoint, it's your job as a head coach to know that answer.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not crazy on that. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. This Baylor thing's not going away. People are upset about it. If you've been living under a rock and you missed this, the original home and home between Auburn and Baylor. Of course, Auburn went to Baylor on a Friday night to start the season. They were supposed to come to Jordan-Hare Stadium. They were now hosting Baylor at Mercedes-Benz, part of this Aflac deal. They're going to make a lot of money for Auburn's athletes, which is great. I want Auburn's student athletes to be the highest paid student athletes in college athletics. I want to be very clear on this. But there's a lot of upset people on this, Darrell. I've already done kind of 2 shows on it, so I'm going to let you take this one.
It's one of those topics or one of those issues that as I get older, I realize that you can feel more than one way about something. I've learned to try to balance both sides and understands people's emotions on both sides.
Yes.
I absolutely understand the outrage of the people that have season tickets and love the home environment of a home football game, which is it's up there with any in the country. Right.
Right.
And so I get that. I get the business aspect of it, of people around.
Sure.
I also get the fact that I've reached out, in case you asked me this question, and have spoken to some of the Baylor friends that I've made over the last 6 months that I've gotten to be pretty close with, that I got to hang out with in Waco, and they're disappointed. They're disappointed that they don't get to experience everything that we have been talking up in the history and the tradition. But from an on-the-field standpoint, they're a little bit glad that they're not having to play at Jordan-Hare.
Why wouldn't they be?
And they're playing
Absolutely.
in Atlanta. Yeah, they're mixed. My point is you can feel more than one way about it. They do. They're like, dang, we wanted to see all the traditions of the eagle flying and tiger walk in your campus. But as far as the X's and O's, we're glad we're playing in Mercedes-Benz, Benz Stadium, easier flight.
Yeah, easy to get to. You get off your plane and you're there. Absolutely.
So I understand completely the disappointment, and there's part of me that's disappointed that I can't escort them around and show off Auburn's campus. But we are living in a day and age.
You're such a nice guy. You're so hospitable. It's great.
They were very hospitable to me, and I wanted to return the favor. And I also love when you are very, very proud of something, you want to show it off. And Auburn's campus and traditions are a jewel. And you want to show it to other people. I remember that writer from the New York Times when Auburn played Syracuse years ago said, just incredible write-up, a Yankee. And I can say that because I'm a Yankee.
Sure.
So, but on the flip side, when all this crap started happening 3 years ago and college football started becoming an NFL model, free agency in the transfer portal, paying your players. By the way, the playoffs going to expand to 16 teams sooner or later, so it's going to follow the NFL model to a T. When all this started happening, I said, be careful what you wish for, because you're going to get further and further away from the college football that we all loved and grew up on and knew. And this is another example of you have to do it or you fall behind. And yeah, I get it. I'm upset. I'm upset for the people that are upset.
Yeah.
But you cannot do away. And look, that $5 million that's being thrown around, that's a minimum. That number can go up higher than $5 million as far as NIL money for Auburn student athletes.
Yeah, and surely that was the risk, right? Cohen and whoever else was involved in this decision knew that would be part of the risk, because, I mean, they knew they were going to get pushback on this. They know that they want home games. So clearly the information they have, which is more than what we do, clearly they think that it's worth it, which is great. And I mean, you can say, like, I think there are differing opinions on Cohen. I think Cohen has nailed pretty much every major decision since he's been here. I think he's done a great job. So I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt. At face value, I don't love it. I'd rather Auburn be at home, but I'm willing to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Like you said, I get both sides on this. If I had it my way, it would be at home, but I'm willing to kind of wait till more information comes out.
Here's the analogy. I cannot like it, but understand it.
Sure.
Right. I cannot like the fact that I have to get a root canal because my tooth's gone, but I understand that I have to get one. So it's just an example of the day and age that we are in college football. Do I love it? No. But do I understand it? Yes.
And that's easy for me to say as somebody who's not a season ticket holder.
True.
As somebody
or small business
or a
owner.
small business owner.
Yeah.
Right. Or I guess small business owner, yes, but not impacted by where games are. Right. So
true.
And that's kind of like, that's the big difference. That's the big difference. And that's what kind of makes the community tick. And you already got 5 road games. And so 5 tough road games. And so it's going to be, next year just gets tougher. But like I said at the top of this, I want Auburn student athletes to be the highest paid in the SEC and all of college athletics. Football, basketball, baseball, gymnastics, softball, soccer, whatever it is. I want Auburn's athletes to be the highest paid. And we all should, because that's how you're going to win in today's age of college athletics.
Can I give one little other slant that I'm trying? I don't remember exactly what Mercedes-Benz Stadium holds from a capacity standpoint, but I would have to think that it's larger than Jordan-Hare. So look that up, and I'm going to give you an angle that maybe some disgruntled Auburn fans may get a little bit of bone thrown their way on this. Can look at it in a little different light.
Standard capacity 71,000, which can be expanded to over 75,000 for larger events like the Super Bowl.
So it's less capacity than Jordan-Hare.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought
pro places are
right. So yeah, never mind. My point on that was be that it might be easier to get tickets for an Auburn fan than it would be at a home game at Jordan-Hare, and that still might be the case. But you will have a home field advantage. It just won't be like it is at Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, my understanding, it's still being treated as a home game
from an allotment standpoint.
So I mean, and it would have been a home game anyway from an attendance standpoint, but this one really will be. Which I'm assuming we can have recruits there if that's the case. In Atlanta, that could be cool, maybe. I don't know. That may not even be true. I'm just trying to make it make sense. I'm just trying to like really wrap my head around it and be excited about it because I'm just not there. But I don't have to be. The offense. Can Hugh Freeze and this offensive coaching staff make the proper changes? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Darrell, we all love Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports, right on your phone. Look, all of you in the comments, y'all are right all the time. And with Prize Picks, you can make money for being right. Prize Picks, it's fun, it's simple. All you have to do is pick more or less than on player projections like Jackson Arnold passing yards, or does Jeremiah Cobb score a touchdown on Saturday? Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 and lineup. That's your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Went into Alumni Hall last week. Bought more stuff for the children. They didn't have enough obby stuff on it, or they've outgrown it. And so we went to Alumni Hall. The staff was incredible. And you've been to Alumni Hall. You've been to all three of their three great physical locations at Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville.
I have. Huntsville is pretty cool. I love seeing all that Auburn stuff in the heart of what you would consider probably Alabama country. Look, do yourself a favor. Game day, arrive on campus 2-3 hours earlier and go to either location in Auburn, Opelika, and get your gear. It's so much fun shopping for gear on game day.
No question. No question. Of course, if you can't make it any of their great physical locations, you can go to alumnihall.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. So the big question before, Hugh Freeze's presser and the Baylor news, the big question was, can the offense do what it takes to win a football game? A big football game against a team that has a very, very good roster and has a very, very good coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the football. And Hugh was asked about it several times earlier in the week. Like, is Jackson, is he afraid to make a mistake? That's not how the question was worded, but I think it's essentially the same thing. And he's like, yeah, that's what we see in film. He's like, he's laughing. He's like, yeah, we talked about that. And it's like, well, let's do it. We're talking about it and help Jackson with whatever is kind of the mental block of him releasing it and giving these awesome receivers a chance to win one-on-one situations. That's my biggest concern. That's been a shortcoming of this offense this season. Yes, the offensive line is not perfect and all that. Yeah, I get it. But Jackson Arnold was brought in to be this guy, and so far he has not been that guy, and I want to see him take a step forward this weekend.
I'm very, very interested to see if Freeze did some self-reflection, really realizes how dire the situation is, feels like he might be coaching for his job, and desperation calls for desperate measures. If you're ever going to do it, Zach, if you're ever going to change things or get in the lab and switch things up and add things, or this is the time to do it because you had a bye week. So from a standpoint of, is it a blessing in disguise that this is happening when it's happening? I've seen other coaches do it. I've seen other Auburn coaches do it. And I've made the comparison to 2016 a lot when he changed. Gus got simple and gave the ball to Cameron Petway a lot, and he didn't get the ball a lot the first 3 games in 2016. Will Hugh Freeze do that? Will Hugh Freeze realize he's got 2 really good backs in Alston and Cobb and do what he needs to do? Will he change schematically and make it quick hitters on the passing game, quick slants, that kind of thing? You've got 2 weeks to do it. If you're going to do it, now's the time. And that's what I'm curious to see. Is there a decided effort to change things because you feel like how dire, and you feel like the season is still salvageable? It is.
It is still salvageable.
And so if you make the right changes and you get this big win where Auburn has not beaten Georgia hardly at all in the last 10 or 15 years, and you do it and you go to 4-2, you now have an opportunity to completely flip the narrative on your season and get on a roll and make this season really good.
There are so many college football quarterbacks that put up numbers and win games, and the game is called in a way where they don't have to make as many decisions. And it just seems like Jackson's thinking everything is late because he's constantly processing things, and he's so timid to turn the football over, which, him not turning the football over has kept Auburn in some of these games. Let's give props where props are due, but also the lack of explosive plays, I think, is also on him. But there are so many elite offensive minds that equip their quarterback with 1 or 2 reads, and then that's it. And it just doesn't feel like we're doing that as consistently as maybe we should. Or if that's the case, if Jackson can't handle that simple of parts of a play call, then I think I have other conversations there. But I don't know why, but I'm somewhat hopeful that they too take the step coming out of a bye week, but we'll see how that works.
We're going to know a lot about this. People already think we know a lot about this Auburn football team, and I would tell you that you don't. We do. I'm not being ugly when I say I'm saying we know some, but there's more to be gained. There's more to be learned about this football team that's going to come out of this Georgia game. So it's either going to be, okay, this is 3 pitiful offensive performances in a row. Maybe we do need to have a conversation about a quarterback change. Maybe we do need to have a conversation about different play caller. There's a lot that can be gleaned from what happens Saturday. What doesn't need to happen is Auburn to lose in a shootout, because then you're like, okay, they put 35 points on the board, but yet they're still 3-3 because they gave up 38. You know, that would be, in my opinion, really hard to digest, because you're like, okay, Auburn finally does what they need to do offensively. A win's right there. I mean, Auburn scores 35 points. They should win the game. So that's something to keep an eye on too. I do think the defense will continue to play at a high level, and I like the way it matches up with Georgia. And look, the law of averages says at some time, for the love of God, especially at home, if Auburn can come out like they did against Texas A&M last year, and everyone was like, where's this been all year, right? You don't want to have to hang on to go to 4 overtimes. But that, if there's
I couldn't handle 4 overtime against Georgia.
If there's a possibility of
not there emotionally,
doing some different things, we should. I just think it's salvageable, and I do think things could look different Saturday night, but we shall see.
They should look different Saturday night, and if they don't, I mean, we all know what the conversation is going to be.
Yep.
Do I think the timing makes perfect sense for the betterment of the program? I don't know, but like we all know, the conversation will be about Hugh Freeze's future employment at Auburn.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Darrell Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Wednesdays and Fridays with you here on Locked on Auburn, and Sunday night live at 8, the Barncast with you and Kyle Rush.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.